Hi, it's James here from the Sprinkled Donut Forge in Moscow, Texas, and I'm trying to knock out a commission. I'm trying to make a D-guard for a cutlass that was ordered almost a year ago by a pirate friend of mine, and he has been very patient and recently mentioned it. I've modified my forge. Of course, I picked up this Tiger blower that you see here, which has increased my ability to make the proper air. Now I have an ash dump and a larger hole to deal with, so the old forge behaves more like a true old-fashioned coal forge would. And I've been using this little rod and my tongs to manipulate the fire. So this video, it has something to do with the cutlass, but it's not going to be a process on the cutlass. I need a coal rake. A coal rake is a 7-shaped object, like the number 7, that you use to stab and to scoot your coal around to manipulate your fire to where you can get your hot spots controlled and you can heat the parts of the metal more efficiently that you're trying to move. And I have neglected, all the years that I've been forging, I have neglected to build myself a proper coal rake. So that's what we're going to do today. I have a lengthy piece of 1/2 inch round. It had some little loops welded on it for holding tools because it used to be a box store sales rack. It's not mild steel. It's significantly harder. It actually will harden and you can snap it. But this is the donor piece for the coal rake. So I'm going to get the end of this hot, and I'm not going to make just a little old bent 7 with a flat end, which would work. I'm going to make something that's nice because I'm going to be using this thing every day, and I hope you will glean a little information by me doing it a little bit nicer. So I'm going to get this in the fire, I'm going to heat it up, and we'll get started on the end, which is going to end up being part of the handle. You'll see. See you in a minute. Alright, end's hot. We knock these in. Alright, we've got a blunt connular point going on there. Let's heat it up some more. Then I'm going to put it over the edge of the anvil, and I'm going to create an offset piece of material. See you in a minute. Alright, I'm going to get a straight peen, which is, I got an old Mason's block hammer. I'm going to set about, say, 1.5 inches over the edge, and I'm going to try to hit it with the bit of the straight peen centered over the edge. While rotating the stock. That'll do. So I've created a little hourglass there. I've kind of necked that in, and I'm leaving this piece of material isolated because I want a decorative leaf finial folded back against my loop handle. So what I have to do now is square up about oh, let's say a foot, about 11 inches to a foot of this rod needs to be squared. So I'm going to start heating it, and I'm going to square up the portions nearest to the material I've isolated and get that done. Probably take 2 or 3 heats to do this, so we'll see you in a minute. Alright, I've got a significant portion hot. It feels like it's getting a little trapezoidal. Either I'm making sense or I just invented a word. But a trapezoid is like a flying square. If you don't know your geometry, it's like a square that's more like diamonded off to one side. Starting to resist. Yeah. If it resists you, you got fire for that. So I'll show you what I got so far. Yeah, I hammered on one side. Got a little bit of the mass of the anvil on the bottom to move that a little bit flatter. Flipped it completely over. Moved that side. And then went to the other edges. Same thing. And all the way over, and I managed to square that up, isolating that little piece of material at the end. So now what I need to do is, that's about the length of a handle there. I need room for a loop, and I need to isolate probably about up to where I ground those pieces off. So we'll say a good foot, a heavy foot. So I'm going to put that portion in, get it hot, square it up, and then we'll go from there. See you in a minute. Alright, let's take it out of the fire and work on it. Now, a round bar will turn any direction. I'm going to rest the part that's already flattened on there and try to match the facets. Try to knock the lumps out. Straighten it. You can lay it along the anvil to get a better eye on where it might be bent. Deliver your strikes sparingly when it's not at forging heat. And the higher the carbon in the steel, the hotter you want to keep it when you're doing anything to it. Excuse me. Alright. So I've managed to isolate some material and square it. Let's get a good measure on that. See what I have. 1 minute while I find my ruler. Alright, I have found my ruler. This is a Champ Ironworks folding ruler, available from Champ Ironworks. There's a science behind how to use it. I'm not going to get into that, but it's worth having. Anyway, from the base of the little area I've isolated material up to where I stopped squaring it, it's exactly 12 inches. So I judged that foot pretty good. So next we're going to work on flattening and forming the little decorative leaf end on it. And after that point, I'm going to start working on the handle. See you in a minute. Alright, let's have at this. Always remember you can push and pull the metal. Pulling, pushing. The whole idea is just to get it to where you want it. Taper that transition down a little bit. At this point, I'm just looking for little lumps and things. Keep it all symmetrical. Alright, there's what I got. See how I isolated the material, made it to a point, and drew it into a leaf blade. That could be a leaf, that could be a feather, that could be anything you want, depending on how you distribute the material. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to put a little bit of graining in there. My strikers are both at church. My holdfast is not doing too well. It needs to be reforged. So I'm going to hook up the treadle hammer cable and going to use a handle hot cut and put some lines in this. And that should be interesting. We'll see you in a minute. Alright, let's see if I can pull this off. It's been a while. The old treadle hammer. Create some little off branches. this. Get a little branch off of it. That suits me. Just to kind of give it some lines. Yeah, I know that looks kind of rough, but this is my rake, it's not your rake. If it was your rake, it would look a lot nicer. But you can see where you can take a little hot cut and make some little distresses in there, and there you go. It's not just a plain flat piece of metal. So next thing we're going to do is heat this up. I'm going to try to give it a little bit of the attitude of a leaf and then roll it against itself, and we'll create the handle. See you in a minute. I've decided to go for some texturing. Why not? It's mine, I got to look at it. So I'm going to take this narrow east wing cross peen and kind of texture it. I think I'm going to go ambidextrous on this and switch hands. Hard to get down to that tip with such a big hammer. I think that looks a little bit better. Alright, let's do what I said I was going to do in the first place and heat this up and roll it around against itself, giving it the attitude of a leaf. See you in a minute. Alright, here we go. Just watch. Alright, nice natural little curl. I think that's a lot nicer, in my personal opinion. So what I'm going to do is kind of eyeball the middle of the squared portion and isolate my heat there, because it's going to spread out, you know, both directions. And I'm going to try to fold this thing over. First, what I got to do is have to make sure that the part that I'm looking at, that I've textured and put lines in, is going to show. So I need to fold that over against the stock and then bend the stock the other way. That way the work that I've done will show. Because the other way, you just wasted a bunch of time. So we'll see you in a minute. Alright, this hammer is made of wood. This is an old 19th century carpenter's mallet. Should be hanging in a museum display. Not in my shop. If it's a tool and it's still usable, it's going to get used. So we're going to use it now. A wooden mallet is handy if you've got something that has texture or lines in it, or a scroll perhaps that you don't want to distort with a metal hammer. The wooden mallet will move it without creating any impressions in it. Just depends on how you use your anvil, because your anvil can still add marks to your work. So let's pull this out and let's roll it over using the wooden mallet. And you can hit it rather hard too. Alright, see, the wooden mallet has successfully rolled over our little leaf to touch. It has no sharp edges, so it'll be comfortable. And that's going to be kind of our finger guard. So we're going to roll this thing over this way against itself and create the handle. See you in a minute. Alright, we're going to employ the wooden mallet. Kind of pick us a spot for the handle to end. Alright, that's centered and that's bent like I want it. I'm going to quench it and put a hand on it. I quench it in and out a few times, just force of habit. You don't just jab it in there and move it in and out a little bit. Especially with higher carbon steels. If you put them in there and just hold them in one spot, you create a quench line, which is a fault point. Good and long. I can grip it back here. I can choke up on it. Very comfortable handle. There's what we got. Pretty well centered. I love it. So now I need to decide the length. I think that about here for the tool to begin. So what I need to do is I need to cut this further ahead from where I want the crook to be. That way I can create the flat part that's going to be the little L-shaped digger that digs into the coal and it rakes it back towards me. I'm thinking probably 4 to 4.5 inches of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the edge of my hammer and I'm going to create one hell of a ding in it where I can find it. Alright, poor man's way of chiseling a mark. You can do it quick. That's where I want to cut it. I'm going to heat it up there, put it in the hot cut. See you in a minute. Alright, let's cut it off. Move the camera back a little bit. There it goes. See you in a minute. Straight up and down. See you in a minute. See you in a minute. There's a coal rake. Been needing that. So there's my little handle. There's the end, slightly curved like the number 7. So that's all I got for this evening. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, bye.